Welcome to the conference. Please enter the conference ID, followed by the pound key. Thank you. Guest ID accepted.
If you're having problems signing in to freedomsradio.com for whatever reason, my name is Michael Edward. I am the moderator for this call today, and this call is brought to you by freedomsradio.com and AmericansRestoringAmerica.com. If you have a question, when he calls for questions, simply press *2, and that will raise your hand on the board. I'll be able to identify you, unmute you, and turn the call between you and Randy or Randy speakers. And that's about it. If you dial into freedomsradio.com, freedomsradio.com, you can listen by streaming, audio streaming through Freedom's Radio. And you just select United States as the territory you wish to cover in the chat room. Well, more about that later. But for right now, let me give a quick disclaimer and get Randy started on the call. Nothing that you hear in this call in any way, shape, or form may be deemed by you to be legal advice, financial advice, medical advice, or any other kind of advice. Nobody here on this call is deemed an expert by the state, and nor are they licensed by the state. All people are doing here on this call is sharing what they would know or think or do in a similar situation. They're offering their First Amendment right to exercise and nothing more. That having been said, it's my sincere pleasure to turn this call over to Randy Kuntz. Randy, go ahead.
Thanks. And I do want to thank them for the hosting it. The reason why we moved it basically was so that we could maybe handle a few more people at the same time. I know that sometimes it was frustrating for some to me only give 20 to 30 minutes notice for a call. And the primary reason for that was so that we didn't have 10,000 people on a call, and it just basically it would drop off, and our host would drop off, and it was just real hard to keep everybody on. So the shorter time I gave, then we had fewer people on the call. Well, it was able to handle it better. Well, this time I'm trying to do this in a way that we can handle a few more people. And he told you where to put the questions. If you go ahead and put the questions, Mike's going to moderate it. One of the things I want to cover today, actually, like y'all pretty well know kind of my format, and that is I'm going to try to give you everything the first 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'll open it up for questions, and people can ask some questions. One of the things I want to cover is I hope everybody realizes that it didn't do an in-country RV. I hope everybody realizes that it hasn't RV'd yet. And anytime anybody gets afraid of that particular spot, they can just pull up the CBI.IQ and check that. I get I don't know how many phone calls and emails because somebody said there was going to be an in-country RV and they were only going to give X amount of dollars for their particular stuff inside the country and X amount. Guys, I can't do it that way, period. And the people that put that out don't understand economics, number one. Even the countries they try to sanction, like not Libya, but Venezuela, some of that, they don't even do it with air. And they even have sanctions on them. They're going to sanction of Iran. They can take Iran's currency to zip. And what does it mean? It means their currency zip. They don't get anything else in and out of country. They can't use it for any more. They can't buy any more with it. It takes X amount of currency to do it. Okay? So please try not to fall for that. And don't fall for the it's going to RV at the banks and they're just waiting for the number to drop in. It's so irritating for me to listen to that and have people ask me those questions. And the reason for that is use your head, guys. Just use your head. That's not happening. If you think it's RV, go check CBI. It'll change there first. And I don't mean to be a little harsh, but gosh, we've been hearing the same thing from the same guys for I don't know how long, 6, 8, 9 months, 10 months, you know, and we ought to be able to understand that that's probably not the truth, okay? So just kind of back up and breathe, and I'm going to start. The things that I sent out in my the last few times I've been doing, I just sent a little email out and tried to send one over Currency Chatter and some private email about what was going on, okay, just to kind of get everybody up. And as soon as I started sending stuff out, then I was getting the in-country RV, so I'm having to send out another email to change that. I don't want to have to do that too much, and I don't want to do calls all the time because we just don't have to, guys. I don't want to get everybody's blood pressure to at 100 and 200 beats or whatever, just way up there. For us, everybody's thinking it's going to RV just because we're having a call, and that's not necessarily the case. I want to try to get people so that they can listen and watch what's going on and understand by even watching the news what's going on in the NAR life. Okay. And the last few things I sent out was on that we were looking for the national conference. Now, I got an article came out saying a lot of people have sent it to me. I don't have confirmation on the conference yet. I would have loved to have had confirmation that this thing was going to start on a particular day. I don't quite have it there yet. But we do have in the paper where the national conference, which they changed the name of it to the national meeting. So in all the major meetings they've been having, about the biggest thing they did was change the conference name from national conference to national meeting. That is a particularly, we believe is an important, that meeting we believe, and I'm giving you basically opinions, and that shortly after that we'll be able to see the ministers show up. Now everybody has seen the ministers moving around again. So when I tell you that there's not going to be an RV until you see the ministers, I'm not telling you a fib. That's exactly what's going to take place. You will see the ministers, and you will see the ministers before you see the RV. Okay? That is a requirement for Shabibi. Shabibi's been pretty adamant about that. We've been, at the first we thought, well, just as long as they got the government together, but it's not. He wants a complete government. And the last three positions are some of the most important positions. One of it has to do with security. Why security? Because they control the military. Why the military? Because, in that particular area, in that neck of the woods, you control the military, then you can almost become a dictator. So that's why it's been such a contentious area. They spent how many months trying to put together these ministers? One of the questions that somebody asked me was, they've taken this long to do it, what's going to force them to do it? Well, nothing, actually, other than the United States, okay? So if the United States decides they want to get back involved with this thing, which if you've listened to even to just the rhetoric the last couple of weeks, John McCain, Hillary Clinton, Obama, every one of those guys are saying that Iraq is going to have to get their stuff together and get finished up, okay? That is telling me and should be telling you that the United States is telling Iraq that we're not going to wait much longer. We want you to finish this up. There's too much going on in the Middle East outside of your area that's causing issues with us, okay? And so that's kind of what's going on. Everybody else will ask, how long will this thing go? In your opinion, how long will this thing go? A really big thing that is coming up is the Arab Summit. The Arab Summit, they need money to get this thing to go. They can't do it there. They need money. And they don't have enough money as it is. So they need to get that done. What about their budget? Okay, there's two things going on. They can't do the Arab Summit without a budget. They can't open the budget without the RV. And that's even a 2011 budget. Remember, they've been opening their budgets around June is when they've been basically opening their budget. So I still see them open, not 2012, but 2011 budget in the next few weeks. And when they open that budget, because that's going to have to pay for the Arab Summit, because in the budget was to pay for these things that they're doing for the Arab Summit. And then they've also talked about their 2012 budget. That's going to be additional monies to complete and finish that up. Everything in their budget for Iraq is to rebuild Iraq. Okay? So they need lots of money for that. All right. One of the other things I sent out that we were able to see in the articles is that these oil companies are getting excited. Oil companies are saying, buddy, if you're not going to finish up with what you're doing, then we're getting out of here. We're not going to sit here and get blown up and have our fields get blown up while we're trying, because you're not paying us enough money to be here. And they say, well, there's oil. They make money off oil. Oil companies have oil. They want the money for doing the oil. Anyway, so that's kind of what we're looking at. So the Arab Summit is at the end of March. That means they have to have enough time to start bringing funds in so that they can have some niceties on this first Arab Summit. And they actually said in the paper and in the articles that they weren't going to cancel this Arab Summit. They canceled the Arab Summit last year because they didn't have the RV. But they're not canceling it this year. And so that is really a good indicator of where I think and how far this thing will go out. I don't believe it'll get past the Arab Summit at the end of the March. If for some reason in the next day or two we see something come up where it says, hey, they're going to postpone or move the Arab Summit, well, then I'd say, okay, then maybe March might be. But I believe that it'll have to happen at the beginning of March, no later than 9 or 10 days into March, for them to try to be at least enough ready for the Arab Summit to be able to handle anybody. They've got to get everybody happy to a point so they don't have bombs. You know, people are not going to the luxurious Baghdad, you know, to have a vacation or a major summit. You're not putting major dignitaries in any kind of given area and having these guys trying to blow them up. It's not happening unless people are happy and people are willing, and the police are paid, the army's paid. See, that's another big one. Maliki doesn't have the ability to pay his army. Have you noticed that Maliki has basically bent over here lately and said, whatever you guys basically want to do, I'm ready to do. Okay? That says a lot. That means that chances are with everything we're doing and everything we're seeing, it's all coming down to the end. Another thing that was a huge critical issue, if you notice, is Talabani is running this thing, not Maliki. And so because Talabani's running it, then that's what we need to look at. Okay? So if Maliki was going to be this dictator that we thought he was going to be, Talabani would not be running anything that is going. Okay? I want y'all to be aware of that. All right. Number one, everybody, there was no in-country RV. Number two, most of these guys that are out there saying that, and everybody asks me why they would do that, and I'm saying I have no clue. I don't have a clue why they would do that because it's not right. Also, I did hear another deal where some are saying that people are being told by certain three-lettered agencies to keep their mouths shut. And that, again, is almost as good as me winning the Nigerian lottery, guys. Okay? And I've won that thing 16 times. I just haven't been able to collect on it yet, okay? You're going to have to hear a bunch of stuff. And one of the things that worries everybody, because you've heard it over and over and over again, is the fact that it's RV, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Oh, they got the numbers ready to drop in the banks. The screens are flashing and going crazy, getting ready to come in. Guys, I just need you to back up, breathe, and understand that's most likely not the case. All right. One of the other big factors, who actually pulls the trigger? Shabibi does. Well, could he have already pulled it? Sure. Why hasn't he pulled it? Because they know they're hurting for money. Well, because he's waiting for the government. He's the one that has put the criteria on himself and on everybody else. And when Maliki tried to get a hold of the bank, the Iraqi Supreme Court said, no, we ain't doing that. It's not under your control. Okay? So Shabibi is going to have this ultimate finger to pull that RV. Is he going to do it? Yes, he is going to do it. Do we know when? No. Because Shabibi don't even know. Why? Because they don't have the ministers together. But when this national conference or this national meeting starts, guys, we can start looking at things. And now, it says it's going to start Sunday. There was an article that came out, and I'll give you the title of the conference. It says the papers discuss political blocks next Sunday. And if you go through it, it goes through all this, talking about herbal and Talabani and all that, how they're all working together, and that they stressed that Sunday seems to be the day that they want to do this, start this national coalition and last 2 or 3 days. We believe that, yeah, it's going to last either 2 to 4 days. We believe that once this thing is over, that they'll come out and announce the ministers, guys, and at that point we're over. All right? And I'm giving you the ability to follow that. You don't have to call me. When you think that they've done it, you can go to CBI, check CBI, and it will change. All the stuff about them having a new website and all that, even if they did, it would redirect you to the new one. Okay? They're not going. Remember, it's the domain name that keeps the site. Okay? So don't worry about that. All right? Cashing in. I've had a lot of questions on cashing in. Every bank, period, every bank or major bank that deals with it is going to cash in. Okay? What's the tax going to be? It's going to be 15%. It's an investment. You have an investment of cash and currency. And when you turn it in, you make profit on the investment. The only thing you're going to look at is short-term and long-term capital gains. There's been absolutely no argument nearly about that. It's just been, what is it, 15 or 35, or 15 or 25, short-term or long-term. Well, I'm just telling you, because there's no receipts other than what you got because you bought it from a dealer. But if you turn around and hand somebody a bill, what kind of receipt did you hand him? None. That's why they don't track cash. It's a legal tender. It's moving back and forth that generally does not have a receipt strapped to it. That's why it's all long-term. Okay? Now, it's best to go, in my opinion, it's best to go when you're dealing with these banks and groups. And the reason for that is it's a lot harder to pull the wool over 12, 13 people than it is one. Would I stick with some of the major banks? Probably would. Why? Because they are less likely to want to screw you, basically. Do you want to leave the money and let it go off someplace? No, I don't. If they give me credit for all my money, I'll leave it. If they don't want to give me credit for the money, that's another thing. If they're just saying, hey, we can't let you take all of it out because it changes our books, but we're giving you credit for all of it, that's different than them trying to verify the money. They're already giving you credit for the money. They're just saying that they need to have the money in there 24 hours before they can actually give you some sort of credit. I need everybody just to back up and breathe and not worry, okay? And the reason for that is every time you hear the RV word, then everybody is jumping and screaming, saying, "Hey, man, it's happened. Oh, I've got 5 do y'all not know that there was how many confirmations about the in-country RV that was an absolute bold-faced lie? Somebody said they had 5 confirmations. 5 confirmations of an internal RV in the country. 5. And it wasn't true, was it? And, buddy, it's going to change on the CBI first. So I need you guys just to use your heads a little bit and back up and say everything's going to be okay. I got one other thing, and I'll open it up and chat. Hey, Mike, is it *2 that is for the chat number? I mean, to ask the questions?
Yeah.
Okay. *2. If somebody wants to ask a question, I don't actually get to see the questions before. I got to see that where the numbers and stuff were. This time I don't, so you're kind of be catching me where I don't know where you're coming from. But this time, if you punch *2, it'll put you in the queue to questions. If I think of anything else in the meantime, we'll say something on that. Does anybody in the mods want to say anything or add anything? Stork, you on?
Well,
okay.
I'm asking people to do Freedom's Radio if you can.
Do what now?
To listen to the call and to ask questions on the call through freedomsradio.com. I'm just trying to keep the board balanced. But go ahead. We have a question from Millsap, Texas. Are you ready for questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Millsap, Texas, ending in 5232. You are unmuted.
Yeah, I was just curious about, there was an article that came out, I guess just yesterday or today, and it was talking about the media blackout. Did you read that article?
I have not read it.
Okay. It says something about the fact that there's a media blackout or a news blackout, and they were talking about it could be just the news articles. They didn't know if it was TV or radio, and I didn't know if you'd anything like that.
You wouldn't be getting articles on that. The way you check that is go to AK News. If they do a media blackout, it depends on what it's a blackout about, too. I mean, if it's a blackout about political issues, then you won't see no political articles. If it's about, the stuff that's going on in Syria and that kind of stuff, then that could be a different deal, too. So the blackout depends on what it's about, yeah.
Okay,
one other
I understand it.
Yeah. Good question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good question. Next question. And while we're going to the next question, one thing I want to say, the CBI auction results, what does it mean? And remember, some of the beginning of our calls back nearly 9-10 months ago, we had a guy named Gene on here, and he hadn't been on in a while, but he was a currency trader and all that kind of stuff. And he was saying that these auctions, basically, he didn't think that dinar was being traded in these auctions at all anyway. But when it was low, it's still a good sign. And 2 or 3 days ago, it finally came out, and the CBI finally said something about not auctioning off U.S. dollars. And so they weren't really auctioning off dinar. they were auctioning off U.S. dollars going out to the streets and stuff. So that was what's keeping them alive. And when the dollar is low and when their auctions are low, it constrains their currency. When it constrains the currency, they need to release the new bills, okay? So it is a very good sign for them to have very low auctions, okay? Next question. Sorry about that.
No problem. The next question is from Lincoln, Nebraska, ending in 4753. You are unmuted. Go ahead.
Randy, this is Bernie from Nebraska. Best case scenario, you said the national meeting could be held as early as this Sunday, which is the 12th. You also said that it probably will take about four days. And if everything goes as we hope, the ministers and GOI, so that puts us out to the 16th. Best case scenario.
That's right.
Best case scenario.
That's right. And those are good numbers. That's right.
Okay. Could we RV after the 16th within a day or two?
Yes. To be honest with you, as soon as the conference is over is when I'm hoping they come out. Of course, I don't know this for a fact as far as when they're actually going to come out and announce, but I do feel like it's going to be within one day, no more than 2 days of the national conference. Okay?
Sure.
And so that's a pretty... Go ahead.
At this conference, then, are they going to, you feel, discuss things like the budget, HCL, and so forth, or are we primarily looking at the seating of the ministers and announcing the GOI? Is that all that's required, or is there any more that needs to be accomplished?
That's it. That is
it.
Okay.
So, again, staying with best case scenario, we could see an RV by the 17th or 18th, and we wouldn't have to concern ourselves with this Arab conference or anything else. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the way I see it. That's exactly right.
Okay,
now,
so
could something change in the middle of that? Sure. Do I know what?
Sure.
No. I mean, if I do that, I'd have would be the richest guy in the world, because that means I'd have the ability to know foreknowledge. But I don't have that. But if everything goes like we feel like it's going to go, the national conference should get everybody's consensus on basically who the ministers are going to be. Then they should come out and announce it. We feel like that they already have those. We've pretty well been told they already have them in place, but that means they have to have a consensus on it and have to announce them. So we feel like that's the announcement. After the conference, they'll come out and announce. After they come out and announce, we're on, guys. We shouldn't be within hours, and the CBI should change. Boom.
So unless something really changes, we don't have to concern ourselves with that Arab summit. That's a far-out date in case the national meeting is not successful. Is that correct?
They probably will cancel the Arab summit if they cannot get this stuff together before the second week of March. They have to. They need money. There's no way for them to do this summit without money. And the only way to do the summit is to have this RV and the money. So what I'm trying to say is that you're looking at probably the first 10 days of March is the furthest it could probably go without us being able to see in the paper about this Arab summit. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to give everybody the ability what to look for. All right? So if the Arab summit comes out there and they say, hey, look, we're not moving this Arab summit, which is said in the paper, I guess, about 4 days ago. We're not moving this Arab summit, which means if they're not moving the Arab summit, they're going to have money before that summit takes off. Okay? So, but if sometime in the 1st of March or the end of February they come out and say, oh, we're going to have to move the Arab summit, then we know that we may have a few more days to go, okay? But as it stands right now, if we get this national meeting started on Sunday, next week is a very good week for us, yeah.
Okay. National meeting is a success. Does Parliament have to do anything after that in order to take the final step?
No, Parliament's already been done. The only thing left to make all this stuff official is these announcements, which do not have to happen through Parliament.
Who's going to make the announcement?
Not right now. I don't have a clue. And I probably would find out, but I don't even care as long as they get out there and announce it. Because it doesn't matter to me. I'm assuming it's going to be Talabani or Maliki or Alawi, one of those three, depending on. It could be Najafi, but but I'm going to say Talibani here the last couple of weeks has kind of taken the bull by the horns. And because of that, I'm going to say Talibani probably not. So I know that all of them are going to be there, you know, because they're all going to want to take credit for this momentous event.
My last question is you said it'll probably take 2 to 4 days for the meeting. 2 to 4 days, so are they talking about more than just the ministers and the GOI? Are they talking about budget? Are they talking about HCL? I can't fathom why it would take 4 days to just talk about ministers who already perhaps have been, announced, or we know who they presumably are. Why would it take 4 days in your opinion?
It took them this last week, Saturday and Sunday, and they met Saturday and Sunday, and they changed the name of the conference from National Conference to National Meeting. It took them 2 days, and they changed the name. Okay. So you want to ask me that question? I'm going to say I don't have a clue. What we kind of feel that it will take, and it may not. Maybe done in 2 days. Maybe done in a day. But we feel it'll be 2 to 4 days. I mean, I don't know that for facts, you know, but we feel it will take that long. And because I think in the paper it actually said 3 days, so that's another reason why we're still assuming 2 to 4 days. 3 days, they hit it in the middle. So it takes 3 days. I don't care. I just want it to start, because once the conference starts, I believe everybody can start counting. We've got to get these guys on a counter. In other words, a time that says we're coming to the end of this ride. And this conference, to me, is that thing. It puts us on this counter and says we're coming to the end of this ride. And, you know, y'all guys, I don't think even knew about the conference until I stuck it in my letter, about 4 weeks ago. So I'm just saying this conference now is pretty foremost on everybody's mind. I'm just saying I think this is the meeting that is it. These are the things that are going to have to take place. And I wish I knew what they were going to talk about, but I don't. And I don't even care. I just want it over. You know, I'm like everybody else. I want it over.
Yep. Well, thank you, Randy. You're a
good question.
Fresh air, and know we can count on you for the truth, and God bless you what you're doing.
Well, thanks. Thanks, man. Good questions. Next question.
All right, the next question is from a unknown caller on Skype. So if you are on Skype, simply start talking.
Oh, okay. I'm not on Skype. I'm on a phone, though. Randy?
Yeah.
I have a question because it concerns me, and I usually try to stay very level-headed with this investment and stuff, and we've been in for all 3 years. Yeah. And I read, and I don't know if to mention somebody else's name, not this I get emails from. And I generally don't listen to much of his, but I happened to read one of his articles on the dinar today, and it was disturbing to me because I have blown out of the water the 10-cent theory, but he posed a good argument for it. And
there's no argument that doesn't meet the budget, though. Keep in mind, first and foremost, all your numbers have to meet a budget, okay? 10 cents will not meet the budget. 10 cents won't even give them the amount of dinar that what their annual budget in U.S. dollars are. Keep in mind, and I put this out in the letter last time. I want everybody to put this in their head. The total revenue, total revenue for Iraq is $26.1 billion, U.S. dollars, billion dollars. All right? They're wanting to come out with a budget of $89.1 billion. Dollars. I'm just using dollars. So if they come in and say we want our currency to be worth 10 cents, then that's only 2.6 billion dinar. It don't even meet the budget. If it comes out 1 to 1, that means 1 dinar is worth $1, and then they only have 26 billion dinar, and it doesn't even meet their revenue. Right? They're still 3 times short. That's why I'm trying to get everybody, the easiest way to see this, divide your $26 billion into $90 billion, or 89.1, and you got your rate. That's what they have to come out with, period, have to. Because their constitution...
Are they going to be charging like... I'm sorry? Are they going to be charging like 25% spread to cash us in from Iraq, from the CBI?
No.
Okay, well,
I'm not going to.
When I read that, I never heard that.
I'm not going to ask you who said that. It's just some of the stuff. Let me tell you what's going to go on too. When you start cashing in, I got to thinking about this. But the CBI rate is what you're going to get pretty much everywhere you go. You know why? There's going to be so much money coming in at the very beginning. That's why another reason why you'd probably want to be in and out of this thing pretty quick, because everybody's going to be vying for your money at the beginning. You wait 6 months, and the money will just trickle in, and then that way you'll start seeing a spread because they're not dealing with this so much anymore. So when it's real hot is when you're going to get at the very beginning, the first 3 months of this, and you ought to go to any major bank and get CBI rates. Period. That's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Randy.
Okay. Good question. Next question.
Our next caller is from McLean, Texas, ending in 5800. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hi, Randy. This is John. How are you doing?
Hey, what are you doing, man?
Oh, not too much. Listen, I know that you had said that the Exxon and Shell and stuff were really putting a lot of pressure on Iraq. Besides them, and, some of the obvious, are there any other underlying reasons why they must do this now? I know they're running out of money. I know the auctions are low, and I know that Exxon. Is there anything else? Is there any other reason that they have to do this, or can they keep postponing it?
Well, can they postpone it? Sure. But keep in mind, eventually, they can't pay the military, which they haven't been able to pay the military. They haven't paid most of the government people yet either. So at some point in time, utter chaos comes into play, and you end up in Egypt and Syria, where you have a total meltdown. And Iraq's not going to get that far. And that's why at some point in time they're going to come out with it. And they're ready to come out with it. The only thing that's been in the way has been Maliki. Well, I think Maliki, if you look at the last 3 or 4 days worth of stuff, he's been, whatever you want to do, guys, I'm in. Now, the only reason this is my opinion. The only reason that they would say, hey, or that he would say, whatever it is, I'm in, is because they got him by the short hair. Okay? And they're saying either you do this or you're gone, and if you're gone, we're going to stick you in jail. You understand? And he goes, sure. Whatever y'all guys want to do. And that's in the paper. If you see the paper, you don't see him screaming anymore about the Strategic Council not being constitutional. You don't see him screaming anymore. Matter of fact, you saw him come out and say, hey, I don't have a problem one iota with Alawi being the head of the Strategic Council as long as he sticks with the Constitution. Hey, if that's not bending over and saying I'm done, I don't know what is. And so that means that all we're talking about is get these guys together enough where they can all get into an agreement and say we're going to announce these ministers and go with it. That's really all that's left. And that's why one of the biggest pressures is they want to be the biggest thing in the Middle East. Shabibi stated Iraq's going to be one of the strongest currencies in the Middle East. Maliki and Alawi both all stand up and say that Iraq's going to be one of the major players in the Middle East. And here they are trying to do an Arab summit with the toilet paper as currency. That won't happen. So your Arab summit is a big pressure institution other than paying their people, other than Exxon and those guys saying, look, if you don't get with it, we're gone. And now keep in mind, what's their major income? Oil. They can't afford for Exxon and them to come out. And, some of these oil companies, they can't even go to like Russia or whatever because all Russia and China, they have to buy a bunch of their fluids and stuff from who? The United States. Okay? So as much as these oil companies want to get that oil and get that ore and stuff, they will want money more than they want that. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's all about the money. If we really want to get right down to it, it's all about follow the money. And when the oil companies start standing up and saying we're about done with this, then this is about over. And Maliki knows that too. He cannot afford to go much longer, and that's why he's been over and said whatever y'all want to do.
Okay, I just have one other quick question. You've always said that the rate would be somewhere between 341 and 345, obviously because of the division of the budget. My question is, my last one is, would there be any chance that they would add a little bit to it, just a little bit, and maybe close to Kuwait 365 or something like that?
Okay, let me just say this, and I'm going to say this as firmly as I can. 341. That's it. Okay. All right. Will they let it come out and float? Yeah, they're going to do a managed float. You know what? 1170 was a managed float. It stayed there for 22 months. They let it float to 1166. That's a good manage. So what I'm trying to tell you is they're going to bring it out of the rate. They'll let that currency move just what they want it to move. And that's it.
Okay, Randy. Well, I really appreciate it.
All right. I think we're about done with this thing, John.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Good question. Next question.